Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
The jury in the Jennifer Crumbley case says it was a key piece of evidence that led to her conviction. Tonight, we look into how the gun used in the Oxford school shooting could play a role in the trial for James Crumbley. We are 2 weeks away from James Crumbley's trial for involuntary manslaughter in the deaths of 4 students at Oxford High School.
Christy McDonald is anchoring our streaming coverage of the historic trial. She's looking into the case and focusing this week on the murder weapon.
James Crumbley is accused of being grossly negligent, that he could have foreseen and taken action to prevent his son from opening fire at Oxford High School back on November 30th, 2021. Now, the case could come down to the storage of his guns, especially the one he bought and gifted to his son, and you can look back to Jennifer's trial for clues. Butzel criminal defense attorney George Danini explains.
How important is it going to be for the prosecution to show that James bought the gun? Again, that was shown in Jennifer's trial, and it was his primarily responsibility for possession and storage.
How much access did he really have? Where was it kept? We'll see how this stuff comes out, but the gun was in one place. The bullets were in another place. There was a lock, but I don't think there's...
But was it used? Yeah.
Right, and I don't think we know that. So was it locked, and then there was a key somewhere else?
I think it's the timeline between what happened Sunday afternoon when Jennifer went to the shooting range with her son and then said she brought the gun home, and then it was James's responsibility from there to take it out of the car, and then what happened on Tuesday morning. I feel like there's a lot that we still don't know right there.
I think that's right, and that's gonna, I assume, be very important to what gets presented in the trial. And I think, as you know, when the jury foreperson was interviewed following the verdict in the Jennifer Crumbley case, she said that seeing Jennifer Crumbley being the last person to have the gun leaving the shooting range was very important to their deliberations. So that gives you some insight about how important it is to at least those jurors who had possession of this weapon.
What's the location of the emergency? Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son goes to high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I need an officer to come to my house right away.
How important is the 911 call from James after hearing about the shooting happening? He went home to check if the gun was there, and then he called 911 saying, I think it's my son.
That may be helpful to him, okay? That shows what a reasonable person would do. That kind of can tell you he needed to confirm something to know, is this, could this have possibly been my son? I mean, I think, again, the defense theme for Jennifer Crumbley, and I assume for James Crumbley, would be, how could I have known that my own child would do something like this?
The one thing that sticks out to me is a damaging text that the shooter actually sent to a friend saying, I asked for help from my dad, and he said to take some pills and to suck it up. The defense, no one can cross-examine the shooter on those text messages, but we saw them come through in Jennifer's trial.
Yeah, so whether they'll come in, or in this case, just again, because it came in there doesn't mean it's gonna come in here. And so there's all kinds of evidentiary rules that are out there to determine whether something should come in. That'll be up to the judge. Yeah, and it's a problem. If something like that comes in, you can't cross-examine a piece of paper.
The defense has filed a motion to get both the shooter's journal and the text messages between the shooter and his friend tossed out. The judge is going to make a decision on that coming up next week. And make sure you stay with ClickOnDetroit.com and Local 4 Plus. We will be streaming all of the pre-trial proceedings as well as the entire trial when it starts on March 5th. I'm Christy McDonald. Back to you.
Christy, thank you. And just yesterday, the judge denied James Crumbley's request to move the trial out of Oakland County. As for the murder weapon, the judge is allowing testimony from the man who owned that gun before it was bought by the Crumbleys.
The parents of an 11-year-old Detroit girl are faced with an excruciating decision whether to pull their daughter off life support. Child shot in the head as she slept on a couch in a home targeted in a drive-by shooting. Rod Maloney live at Detroit Police Headquarters tonight with a look at the 3 men now arrested, but also the outrage that police are expressing about a terrible case, Rod.
Yeah, Devin, police prosecutors, and let's face it, they used a lot of resources. They used the gang squad, the auto theft squad. They had Wayne County Sheriffs, Michigan State Police, all involved in trying to find these three suspects. They are not giving us details, but they say it was a particularly violent dispute between what appears to be gangs that caused this entire situation. 11-year-old Lamara Glenn not likely to live, law enforcement saying her family is seriously considering removing her from life support. This sad series of events started a week ago at a Detroit auto dealership, thieves stealing 5 vehicles, driving them right through the garage doors. Then on early Tuesday, Detroit police say 2 men drove one of the stolen SUVs to this east side Detroit home on Pennsylvania Avenue near City Airport. They fired 23 shots into the home with 9 people inside, apparently over some kind of feud with one of the adults. Lamara slept on a couch and suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Arrested are 18-year-old Takari Turner of Detroit, 19-year-old Nasir Garrett, also from Detroit. Police say they fired the shots. Alleged to have assisted Garrett and Takari Turner in disposing of the gun is Turner's 20-year-old brother Robert Lee Turner Jr. At today's arraignment, Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor Patricia Bergamo told the magistrate,
Mr. Garrett and Mr. Takari Turner did not care who was in that house, how many people were in that house, the ages of the occupants in that house. Their intent was to kill and to do harm. It was not to send a message.
Detroit Police Chief James Craig expressed disgust in an afternoon news conference.
If you know someone who is contemplating doing something this ridiculous, talk to them. But we are going to be relentless in pursuing those who victimize our community.
The 2 shooters have been charged with over 24 counts of felony firearms, gun charges, and the like. But here's the thing. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office are saying if, in fact, Lamara Green does not survive, if they remove the life support, then all of the charges, or at least the first charges in this case, will go to first-degree murder. Reporting live in Detroit, Rod Malone, Local 4.
Just a horrendous case.
Yeah,
all right, Rod.
It really is. City of Detroit is expanding its fleet of first responder vehicles, adding a half dozen new ambulances. With the new additions, the city says it averages more than 40 ambulances per day on the street, which is the most in the city's history. That should help with emergency response times. Detroit is currently below the national average at 7 minutes and 33 seconds. That's an improvement from 10 years ago when wait times could top 20 minutes.
City of Detroit gearing up for Tuesday's presidential primary, and early voting, of course, is underway. So far, City Clerk Janice Winfrey says voting trends have been similar to previous elections. Areas that already tend to have heavier turnout are seeing more early voters as well. Winfrey also says if your precinct number is changed, that is not a cause for panic.
The thought is, though, although your precinct number might have changed, where you go and vote does not. So if you vote here at Wayne County Community College, East Campus, and you were precinct 132, you might now be precinct 122, but you still vote here. It's important to us that we don't move the polling location, especially during a presidential election.
You can expect more on election night with a special edition of our 10 p.m. news on Local 4 Plus. We'll have the latest results and analysis on what the outcome could mean for the general election coming up in November. So hope you'll join us on election night. People living in Gibraltar still dealing with the mess left behind by a string of violent storms last August.
Uprooted trees, a crushed car, and damaged homes are just some of the problems residents woke up to after the tornado sirens stopped blaring. Only a few hours later, our Priya man met with homeowners as they got their look at the destruction left behind.
Same storm caused problems for people living in a number of counties across lower Michigan. So FEMA teams are visiting homes in Lansing and Gibraltar today and Grand Rapids tomorrow.
Our Megan Woods is live with how these visits are helping residents. Megan.
Kimberly, Devin, so crews from FEMA were going door to door, passing out these informational flyers on disaster assistance, the same assistance that so many in Gibraltar and surrounding communities need even 5 months later.
Things were crashing everywhere. Our tree cracked. Our fence totally blew away, our cable wires, everything. You wouldn't believe the mess we had.
These pictures can't possibly capture the full extent of the storm damage Cynthia Rogers and her husband dealt with last August. The couple had just paid off their home, and when it came time to fix up the mess, home insurance was no help.
We pay $2,000 a year for our home insurance. Now, our car insurance, they covered because branches hit the car and scratched both of them. So they covered that, but the house insurance, no. So FEMA will be wonderful if they can help.
Good morning, FEMA. The agency provides grants to cover the cost of home repairs from disasters for families that are qualified.
Make those repairs, and in this case, they probably already have made the repairs. So if they have their receipts of the damages that they've made, we can reimburse them for those damages, for those repairs, I should say.
Today, crews went door to door.
Hello, sir.
To point people in the right direction and at least start the process.
Following up to see if they have registered. If they haven't, we can help them register right now, or we can have them call the 1-800 number, or they can go visit one of the disaster recovery centers that we just opened. We do have one that opened in Ingham County as well as Macomb County.
And this is that 1-800 number. We'll also put that on clickondetroit.com. And they're not just in Gibraltar. They're trying to help anybody in Macomb, Monroe, Oakland counties that had damages from the storms of August 24th through August 26th. And again, we have that information on clickondetroit.com if you can use it. Reporting live, I'm Megan Woods, Local 4.
Very good. Okay, Megan, thank you.
Well, the weekend is upon us, and what a couple of days we've had. We could have just stretched it out into Saturday and Sunday.
Well, we're going to get a shock to the system, so says Kim. Let's get over to Kim Adams in the forecast.
We're not going to be eased into this at all. In fact, temps have already dropped from around 50 degrees down into the 30s just within the matter of a couple of hours north of I-696. So Pontiac is at 38. You go over to Mount Clemens and it's literally freezing, 32 degrees, but still 43 down in Monroe. So the cold air is just making its way to the Ohio border. We had a cold front come through that took its sweet old time today, but it was good because it gave us a little more sunshine and we were able to warm a little bit more today, but that's about finished. 41 degrees right now here in Metro Detroit. Take a look up north. Big difference than yesterday when they were in the 30s. 19 in Alpena, it's only 12 in Marquette. Tomorrow is going to be the coldest day we've seen in a long time with a high of only 32, and wind chills in the morning will be in the single digits, but we're not done with 60-degree weather just yet. We'll talk about that in the forecast.